Hello children, Bindu Chaudhary is with you in your social science class. Today we are covering our past part 3rd, chapter 6th. Yes, today we are starting our new chapter. The name of the chapter is Weavers, Iron Smelters and Factory Owners. Today we are covering its part 1st. When we are covering part 1st, then this chapter is based on the industries, mainly 2 industries we will cover in this one. The first one is cotton textile industry and the second one is iron and steel industry. Today first one, this one is the picture of the trading ships on the port of Surat in the 17th century. This picture shows students that trade in India is not a new one. Yes, it was a glory of India that trades were there in the ships forms and trade ships were there in the port of Surat. So 17th century picture shows that we Indians feel proud in our past. So what happens in this chapter? This chapter tells the story of crafts and industries of India when during British rule. Yes, we will discuss about the crafts and industries during British rule by focusing on 2 main industries, as just we had discussed about the textile industry and iron and steel industry. When we are covering these 2 industries, students, we will cover on the basis of India as well as on the basis of world also. Both these industries were crucial for the industrial revolution in the modern world. Yes, we discussed about the modern world, and on that time many circumstances took place, and on that time what happened, students? Sometimes we were in peak. Yes, Indian industries were in peak, and sometimes we lost that dignity. So mechanized production of cotton textiles made Britain the foremost industrial nation in the 19th century. When we discussed about Britain, what happened in Britain? New mechanized productions of the cotton textile started, and this took Britain as the industrial nation in the 19th century. And when its iron and steel industry started growing from the 1850. 2 things we are discussing, 2 industries we are discussing here, student. First one about cotton textile and the second one iron and steel industry, which was started in the year 1850. See, the industrialization of Britain had a close connection with the conquest and colonization of India, because we were under the British rule, and when there was a development, industrial development of Britain, then we Indians also had a lot of changes, lot of connections with the conquest and the colonization of India. See, British industries began to see India as a vast market for their industrial products. As we all know that Britain had mechanized industrialization. So where he sold his products? Britain sold its product in the west market of India, because we had a great market on that time, and over time manufactured goods from Britain began flooding India. Yes, we had a movement against this textile industry. About textile industry or about the clothing? Yes, we will clear about this one, student, that about the clothing, Mahatma Gandhi and others started movement, boycott विदेशी, है ना, और उन्होंने क्या किया था बच्चों? उन्होंने विदेशी कपड़ों की होली भी जलाई थी. तो यहाँ पे हम क्या देखते हैं कि जब ब्रिटेन का सारा माल बाढ़ की तरह इंडिया की तरफ, इंडिया के मार्केट्स की तरफ आने लग गया, तो कहीं न कहीं हमारे जो इंडिया के मार्केट थे, हमारे जो इंडिया के वीवर्स थे, what happened to them? They ruined or they progressed? What about their materials, students? Their materials sold out or not? When there were a cheap marketing from the Britain side. So lots of changes took place after the flooding material of Britain in India. How did this affect Indian crafts and industries? We will discuss this in our chapter reading session. This is the question we will explore in this chapter, because it's a great demand how we progressed in the industrialization, how our industry suffered from the outsiders. First one, we will discuss about the Indian textiles and the world market. When we are discussing about the Indian textile and the world market, student, the first one around 1750. Yes, 1750 was the time when the British conquered Bengal. Yes, before the British conquered Bengal, India was by far the world's largest producer of cotton textile, because before the conquest of Bengal, we were the largest producer of the cotton textiles, because we had the many beneficial weavers, very intelligent weavers. They had a very quick movements of their hands on the weaving material. Indian textiles had long been renowned both for their fine quality and exquisite craftsmanship. We had two main qualities of the weavers. The first one, that they weave very fine quality material, and the second one about their own craftsmanship. So these were the great main demands of that time. They were extensively traded in Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia covered, students, Java as well as Sumatra and Penang, whereas West and Central Asia were also trading parts. From the 16th century, yes, see what happened in our past. When we are discussing about the 17th century, when we are discussing about the 18th century, 19th century, and when we are discussing about the 16th century, what happened in 16th century, students? European trading companies began buying Indian textile for sale in Europe, because they had a great demand. Indian textiles, fine clothing, fine weaving was there, because that's the main reason they had a great market in Europe. So European trading companies always attracted on the cotton textiles of India. When we are discussing about this one, then words tell us about the histories of cotton textile. European traders first encountered fine cotton cloth from India and carried by Arab merchants in Mosul in present Iraq. Where is this Mosul, students? Mosul is in present Iraq, and European traders, they encountered our fine cloth. Yes, India's fine cloth, and they carried by Arab merchants in the Mosul at present in Iraq. When we are discussing this thing, then this main thing important we have also. So they began referring to all fine woven textiles as muslin. This muslin word came from where? जहाँ पे हम बात करते हैं फाइनली वूवन टेक्सटाइल्स की, तो एक वर्ड आता है मुस्लिन, अ वर्ड दैट एक्वायर्ड वाइड करेंसी, जिसको बहुत बड़ी करेंसी के रूप में भी यूज किया जाता है. व्हेन द पोर्तुगीज केम टू इंडिया, दिस अबाउट द यूरोप. एंड व्हाट अबाउट पोर्तुगीज, स्टूडेंट्स? When the Portuguese first came to India in search of the spices, because they only needed spices from India, that's why they wanted to search spices in India, and they came and they landed in Calicut. We have a story of Calicut and Calico also in this part, students, on the Kerala. Where is this Calicut? Calicut on the Kerala coast in southwest India. So Portuguese landed at the port of Calicut, and the cotton textiles they took back to Europe. They came here, and with the spices they took cotton textile material to Europe along with the spices. This came to be called calico. Why this came to be called calico? It derived from the word Calicut. We had one more use of this word calico. We will discuss this in this part in the next lines. And subsequently calico became the general name for all cotton textiles. This concept is clear. What was the name of the all cotton textiles in India? Calico was the general name for all cotton textiles. See, this one is the picture. Picture of what, students? Picture of the printed designs on fine clothes, and these fine clothes called छींट. छोटी छोटी बूटियाँ, बेल पत्ती होती हैं, फ्लावर्स होते हैं, उनसे बनाई जाती है इसको. एंड दिस कॉल्ड छींट, प्रोड्यूस्ड इन द मसूलीपट्टनम, आंध्र प्रदेश. एंड दिस was the picture of the mid 19th century. And what is the main important thing about this cheent? We will discuss. Yes, we will discuss lot of things about cheent, about calico, and about the other cotton textiles. Amongst the pieces ordered in bulk were printed cotton clothes called cheents, kosias, or we will call them khasa, and bandhani. So these were the different types of the printed clothes, and they had different names: cheent, kosasas, or khasa, or bandhani. Do you know where the English term cheent comes from? Yes, we noticed about cheents, the special word in English as well as in Hindi. So where this English word cheents came from, we will discuss this thing in our chapter reading session, student. It is derived from the Hindi word cheent. Yes, we had a word cheent with us, and a cloth with small and colorful flowery designs were there, as we had just seen in our previous slides. So these words come from cheent. This is the Hindi word, and from the 1680s there started a craze, yes, in all over the world, a craze for the cotton textile, printed Indian cotton textile, especially in England and Europe, mainly for their exquisite floral designs, fine texture, and relative cheapnesses. See, what was the main important thing about the cotton textile, printed cotton textile of Indian material? First one, about the floral designs they had. Next one is the fine texture of the clothes, and the last one is the relative cheapness. Yes, the cloth, the cheent was very cheap, so it is available for all of the people in a very easy way. See, rich people, we had a story about the cheent in Britain or in England. See, rich people of England, including the Queen herself. We had already discussed that we will discuss this cheent in the next words purpose also. So here is the word cheent in reference to the Queen of England, and Queen herself wore clothes of the Indian fabrics. See, this one is the Zamdani weave, early 20th century picture. Something different printings were there, and these printings includes Zamdani weaves. When we discussed about the different types of bandhani, zamdani, seed, flower designs, etc., then we know that how our weavers on that time was working, yes, with the full stamina that Queen of England wore the Indian fabrics. There were other clothes in order book that mentioned about the other clothes, and that were noted by their place of origin. For an example, Kasim Bazar, Patna, Calcutta, Odisha, and Sarpur. See, these were important cities where the other clothes material were developed. The widespread use of such words, yes, such words, how popular Indian textile had become in different parts of the world. Yes, on that time, cotton textile of India had a great market in Europe. So cotton textile was in the peak of the time and all over the time it was in, not in India but all over the world, it was so much popular. This one is the another picture, another cloth material named bandhani, and this one is bandhani design developed in the early 20th century. We had different types of cotton textile. Chint was there, chint is still is in use, bandhani is still in use, and other zamdani, other materials all are at present in use. So we had a big market of cotton textile, not in India as well as in abroad also. This one is the another picture of the bandhani design of earlier 20th century. When we noticed all these things, then we already discussed that Indian textile was in great demand, was in the peak in all over the world. So we will discuss about the Indian textile in the European markets. By the early 18th century, worried by the popularity of Indian textiles. Yes, Indian textile was in the peak of that time. So all the other worried about the peak, about the good quality, about the increasing demand of the Indian cotton textile. Wool and silk makers in England. Yes, these people, wool and silk makers, England began protesting against the import of Indian cotton textile, because when these were imported in the England, what happened to the wool and silk makers of England? Their material was not sold down. So they were against the import of Indian cotton textile in England. In the 1720, we had discussed one name, calico. We discussed this name in here also in the another way. See what is the another way? In 1720, the Britain government enacted a legislation, and this legislation banning the use of cotton textile, especially chint, in England. As we discussed that chint was worn by the Queen of the England herself, but it was banned. Or we will discuss interestingly this act. What act? About the ban of the cotton textile chint in England. This act was known as the Calico Act. So calico, not only the name of calicut, not only the name of the good quality of the fine material cotton textile, but also the act which was known as the Calico Act in England. So we had different words, calico words with different uses at a different time. In the year 1764, some new inventions were there, and these new inventions always developed the Britain market, abroad market, but not the Indian market. What happened to these one? We will discuss here. In 1764, spinning jenny was invented by John Kay. Spinning jenny was invented by John Kay, which increased the productivity of the traditional spindles. This one was the invention. We had another invention also, the invention of the steam engine. Steam engine was invented by Richard Arkwright, and Richard Arkwright in the year 1786 revolutionized cotton textile weaving in not only in this one but all over the world. Lot of changes took place. What changes took place? We will discuss here. Cloth could now be woven in immense quantities and cheaply too. After the mechanization, what happened students? बहुत ज़्यादा मात्रा में, बहुत ज़्यादा क्वांटिटी में और बहुत सस्ती दर पे क्या हुआ? कॉटन टेक्सटाइल का निर्माण होना शुरू हो गया, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग उसका स्टार्ट हो गया. यूरोपियन ट्रेडिंग कंपनीज लाइक द डच, द फ्रेंच एंड द इंग्लिश made enormous profits out of this flourishing trade, because these were the companies who wanted to sell the material. cotton textile material, and they had a huge benefit of selling because these were the middlers, and middlers took the main benefit to themselves. These companies purchased cotton and silk textiles in India by importing silver. Yes, in return of the cotton and silk textile, they were importing silver, and from this one they took our cotton textile and silk material to the abroad. See, this one is another picture, the picture of a sea view. समुद्र का ये एक सीन है बच्चों, जहाँ पे आपको जो डच सेटलमेंट है कोचीन में in the 17th century is there, and as per European trade expanded on that time, trading settlements were also established at various ports, and this port was the scene of Cochin, and this Cochin had a great settlements of the trading things, and we know that Dutch settlements in Cochin came in the 17th century, and this notice the fortification around the settlements. So this one is the part of the trading, and we had one more Indian map here which shows plain white cotton textile, checks and strips, chintz and silk, where these were in great demand and these were producing. See, when we are discussing about plain white, then star is the symbol of this one. See, here in Lahore, in Sirhind, in here also Patna, Dhaka, and some parts of Calcutta, and here also in this way, and that this one Pondicherry also, Nagapattinam also. And when we are discussing about Surat, we discussed the main thing Surat, and we will cover this Surat and the one of the other city of Gujarat in our next part for the cotton textile material. Okay, and when we are discussing about the checks and strips, what is this checks students? आपने देखा होगा चेक की शर्ट पहने हुए लोगों को, तो ये जो चेक्स बनाए जाते थे, ऐसे कपड़े बनाए जाते थे, या फिर ये जो स्ट्रिप्स के कपड़े, लंबी लंबी स्ट्रिप्स के कपड़े बनाए जाते थे, इनका भी एक अलग ही स्पेशल जगह था जब हम बात करते हैं सिरहिंद, लाहौर, समाना, एंड व्हाट अबाउट दिस वन we had discussed here also in Calcutta, and here in Madras and in Pondicherry, and this cover also here. See, Surat also covered checks and strips. Ahmedabad also covered checks and strips. When we are discussing chint, the world famous chint which was worn by the Queen of England, which were worn by the common peoples of India as well as abroad. So chint especially in the Jaipur, Agra, Sanganer, and this one Shironj, and what happened to others in Patna also, in Dhaka also, and in Golconda and Goa and other parts also. Especially when we are discussing about the silk, the famous Banaras silk is here at present also. We had Banarsi silk sarees, Banarsi dhoti kurta, Banarsi material, it means silk material. We had a lot of silk material in our southern part also. So lot of things were there to discuss, lot of things were there to tell to you. Okay, we had another part in which we will develop our cotton textile as well as iron and steel textile. So always with us. Have a nice day.